Do you own a familiar? Is it an incorporeal demon called Vinegar Tom? If yes, 2 points. If it is your cat, Mr. Tiddles, 0 points. Hello and welcome to Grumpy Old Crone with me, Annie, where I'm going to be whinging about things that don't matter very much in the witchcraft and pagan communities for about 45 minutes, something like that, depending on how much I digress. So today I'm going to look at 3 things as normal: the witchy aesthetic, the meat and 2 potatoes, and I've got a really nice little positive bit for you at the end, which if anybody's interested in the grumpy old garden, that's where I'm going to be going at the end of this. But first of all, we're going to look at witchy aesthetic. Oh man. Right, well, if you look at all of the thumbnails, because I always take my thumbnails directly from my videos, and if you look at them, you'll notice that there has been some weight change in the past year or so. And right now, oh man, I really need to lose a bit of weight. I mean, it's not that I'm obsessed with how I look, but I am very aware that I have gone up a dress size. I lost quite a lot of weight last summer, but this year, I've just put it all back on. Whoops. It happens, right? I'm mostly at peace with my dress size. I fondly remember my teenage years when I could eat literally anything and remain as skinny as a skinny thing on a particularly skinny day. But pretty much everything changed when I had my son and I reset my metabolism. Although, you know, evidence and family history seems to show that I don't actually think it would have made a huge difference whether I had my son at that point or not. As soon as I hit 30, my metabolism was going to go down the toilet anyway. So, I mean, at least this way I gained a really amazing family member, so, you know, hurrah for that. But however I got here, the fact remains that for the sake of my health, I should probably try and get just a little bit more sensible about my eating. Because, oh my God, I am the person who does the shopping and the cooking in this family, and that means that I need to get my head into the eat better zone. So both Mr. Grumpy Old Crone and I decided to lose some weight together last year, and we started doing the 8-week blood sugar diet thing. And you know what? We felt really good on it. I don't know what really went wrong actually or when, but we kind of fell off the wagon big time right at the end of last year. And, you know, I felt quite guilty about it. And so I have been indulging myself ever since with that terrible mindset of, well, I've already failed, so I might as well fail spectacularly. Whoops. Yeah. So, but now I'm realising that we do actually need to get back on the diet, because I have put back, I got on the scales for the first time in ages, and I've put back everything I lost, and in that traditional way, a little bit more. Bugger. Yeah, not ideal. I mean, my big problem with the 8-week blood sugar diet thing is that while it does work, and it works really, really well, you're meant to take out as much of the empty carbohydrates from your diet as possible. And I love carbohydrates. I live for carbohydrates. One of my favourite snacks, in fact, is a thick wodge of bread with strawberry jam on it, and the only non-carbohydrate part of that snack is the knife I use to put the jam on, and I'm not going to start eating that. So, as you may have picked up from my not infrequent declarations of adoration, I also have an abiding love of salt and vinegar Pringles, which are pretty much the most carbohydrate that ever carbohydrated. And somehow now I'm meant to not eat, let's see, potatoes, sugar, bread, rice, pasta, and basically anything with any joy whatsoever. So I'm pretty sad. I keep trying, and then I get ambushed by things like a lemon meringue pie. I didn't intend to buy the lemon meringue pie. I don't know why it fell into my shopping basket. No clue. Nope, not way. Total mistake. Whoops. I've also no idea why half of it fell onto my plate after the very healthy main course I cooked. And here, literally we have the source of my problem. I just bloody love carbohydrates. If only I had a deep and abiding passion for raw broccoli, I don't think I'd have anything like the problems that I do. So, why am I saying this here in the witchy aesthetic bit? Right, I'm saying this here and now in an ongoing attempt to be held accountable for my frankly ridiculous levels of snacking. So send help. Please send help. Or low-calorie recipe suggestions. That also helps. But don't send Pringles. Lovely as they might be, I'm not convinced they are helping much at this point. So yeah, hold me accountable, right? If you're going to email me and say, put down the sugary stuff. Don't go near the Pringles. You see, and even now I'm saying it and I can hear in my head going, well, if we're going to give up Pringles, why don't we have one last tube to just kind of like say goodbye to no, Annie, no, don't do that. Right, this is why I fail. Anyway, we're going to move on to now, after me whinging about my diet, we're going to move on to the meat and 2 potatoes of today. One of the most frequent questions that I think almost every witchcraft-centered content creator gets asked this, and it's asking about what people should do when they very first get into the craft. And it's one of the questions that very rarely gets answered in the kind of solid and concrete way that I think people want. I mean, I do understand that people are concerned about telling others what to do or casting judgment on the practice of others, because everybody's free to do whatever they want. And the instant that you get judgy or gatekeepery, then you risk offending people. And the name of the game in making videos like this and having a channel or social media presence, what have you, is that you're meant to build your audience. You know, you get more subscribers, get more followers, get your numbers up, etc, etc, etc. I understand that. And for people who are trying to make this their full-time job, it's a really difficult line to walk. I was talking with a friend recently who mentioned that another witch tuber, a really well-known and respected one, had refused to comment on a recent political situation and was actively removing comments from their community section to avoid talking about it. And my friend was judging the creator pretty harshly for not commenting on something that they really thought needed to be commented on. But you know, I kind of get it. I am incredibly lucky that this is not my full-time job. I mean, it's a thing that brings me joy and connection and new friends and validation, and I hugely value all of that. I mean, I do get some money from it, don't get me wrong, thanks to all you lovely people who support me by watching adverts or subscribing to my Patreon, but I still need my day job. And you know, actually, I think that's a really good thing because it is a safety net from having to alter what I say and how I put myself over in a public space. If everyone just disappeared overnight, all of you just disappeared overnight, cancelled your Patreon subscriptions and my YouTube channel was closed overnight, then, you know, I'd just be back to where I was 15 months ago. And that's actually not a bad place. I really don't want that to happen because holy shit, I adore doing this and I really don't want it to stop. But, you know, if through no fault of mine it did stop, I still have my day job. And I love the protection that that gives me from having to be palatable. Yeah, I'm not interested in being palatable, and I'm not too worried about offending people. I mean, I don't enjoy it, but I do value my ability to voice my opinion more than having to play it safe. So I can say things like, I think killing children is wrong, and I don't care what you think about homeland territories. No piece of land is worth murdering somebody. Do better, Israel. And I'm sure that with that one sentence, a few dozen people will instantaneously unsubscribe and several will cancel their Patreon memberships. But I'll still be able to pay my bills because I've got a day job and I sleep pretty well at night knowing that I'm being honest about how I feel. Also, I think I actually lost most of my right-wing followers after my video about trying to be kind to neighbours while simultaneously being terrified about what the government in the US is doing, you know. So I'm free to say, very happy that I am free to say, Donald Trump is a fascist dictator hell-bent on making Margaret Atwood's depiction of Gilead come true. I'm very free to say that. I mean, it's not like I'm lying, right? Yeah. Sue me, right-wingers. Yeah. Or just go away. Anyway, and alternatively, if you're very offended by what I just said, please do send me a strongly worded comment or email, and I will be sure to feature it in an upcoming video. But my point is that when you don't rely on YouTube to pay the rent, you don't have to pander to anyone else's opinions. And I think that element of trying to please everyone and offend no one is behind why a lot of people don't actually feel comfortable answering that "what should I do when I first become a witch?" question. Okay? So all that being said, also, while I'm here, can I just say trans women are women, trans men are men, everyone can be a witch, nobody checks your wobbly bits around a sacred fire, and if you disagree, you know where the door is. But still, what is the path to becoming a witch? What should you do? What should you buy? How should you practice? Can I be Feruza Balk? The quick answer is there's a lot of different paths. The slightly longer, but not by much, answer is there are a lot of paths, and if you explore one and it seems perfect for a few months or years, but eventually the shine wears off and it doesn't fit anymore, and kind of ends up feeling like wearing a pair of knickers with saggy elastic that you have to keep hitching up to keep in place, well, you know what? It's perfectly fine to change it. This isn't Christianity, where you're expected to chant an immovable and unchanging litany of things that you believe in every week in church, just to remind you, in case you had a teensy-weensy doubt at some point. I'm looking at you, Nicene Creed. I mean, there isn't a belief monitor who comes around every Sabbat to check that you're witchy enough to be allowed to have an altar, and who confiscates your Book of Shadows if you haven't done enough gluing and sticking in it. My advice would be to sit with the question, why do I want to be a witch? For a good few days. Sit under a tree. Journal about it. If you read tarot or runes, then, do a reading about it. Talk to people who you respect about it. Bonus points if they're also witches, or else, you might get some confused and worried looks. But hey, but everyone has a reason, even if the reason is just the vibe is good and I really love pentacles. It's still a reason. That reason, if it's a decent reason, should help you to find the next step. Personally, as you're already on WitchTube watching me blabber on, I recommend having a bit of a dig around. There are some amazing content creators. Ivy Corvus, Witch of the Wanderlust, Ari the Oak Witch, Hearth Witch, The Witch's Cookery. All of them are great solid educators who know their stuff backwards. I'll leave links. Okay. I'm sure there are loads more who I just haven't come across yet. But have a look. Take a note of who they recommend as well, and watch everything with a cynical eye. This is really super important. If something doesn't sit right with you, remember that you don't have to accept it. You should be creating and crafting a practice that works for you. And if someone says something that feels wrong, then, ignore it. You're allowed to ignore things you don't like. You don't have to follow what somebody else says slavishly. A central point of my own belief and practice is that I like to question everything. I really recommend it as a way to approach crafting new practice. It can lead to some really interesting quirks in a developing practice, and I actually kind of love that. Now, while we're talking about it, let's look at things that it's really important you probably shouldn't do, things not to do. I mean, it's a really important thing to consider, and while I will say that you should feel absolutely free to ignore every damn thing I say, I will also say that I do think this is very important. Do not start by picking a label that seems attractive and then trying to craft a practice to fit the label, because what you'll end up with then is a magical practice that's all about surface level appearances with a lot of stuff shoehorned in that might not make a whole lot of sense. A lot of people see those god-awful quizzes about, are you a green witch or a hedge witch, and offer a whole load of labels for you to choose from. And you can proudly choose one and say, I am a hedge witch, because, you really like plants and hedges and little animals. And 3 months later, you'll find out that being a hedge witch is absolutely nothing to do with actual hedges, but much more about spiritual journeying in altered states of consciousness and interacting with spirit forms and entities there. And if altering your consciousness or communicating with non-human entities is something that scares you, then maybe this isn't the path for you. I've always felt that this is a bit like that bit. You know, the original Karate Kid movie? Maybe I'm aging myself here, but the original one, I haven't watched the new one, but the original one where Daniel asks Mr. Miyagi what kind of belt he has, meaning, you know, what grading in karate have you reached? Mr. Miyagi looks down and responds, JCPenney canvas, $3.98. You know, the point is, who cares about grading? Mr. Miyagi knows karate, and he knows that belts are for keeping your trousers up, not showing off to others. So if someone asks you what sort of a witch you are, an entirely appropriate response is the private kind, thank you. You don't need to wear a label to make other people comfortable. I mean, I have been walking this path on and off for well over 35 years or so. What kind of witch am I? I don't know. I mean, I'm an East Anglian witch, but that's a lot more about where I live and the land that I practice on. And that label isn't going to instantly inform someone else everything about who I am and what I do. At most, it will probably tell somebody that I'm quite fond of toads and flat places and mud. I really like estuary mud. Smells like home. But neither you nor I owe anybody else a pithy two-word explanation of the deep and meaningful relationship that we have with magic and the divine. And whilst we're on the you shouldn't do this path, you just know that I'm going to say that you shouldn't go out and buy a load of equipment and herbs straight up, right? Because that should actually go without saying. I do understand that the instant validation of buying things is like a dopamine hit. I get it. I'm a victim of the dopamine hit myself. You know, damn you, Vinted. I mean, a lot of witches don't use wands, or a lot of witches don't use athames or chalices or crystals or herbs or, you know, well, much really. Your innate witchiness, if there is such a word, is not measured by how many accoutrements you have. It's a great word, isn't it? I always used to say to my kids, and the kids that I taught when I was a teacher, never use a boring word if an interesting one will do. Accoutrements. Yeah, I like that. But anyway, stuff, you know. There isn't some kind of quiz that you're forced to take during your first sabbat where you have to answer questions like, you know, do you own a wand? If yes, 2 points. If no, 0 points. Do you own a familiar? Is it an incorporeal demon called Vinegar Tom? If yes, 2 points. If it is your cat, Mr. Tiddles, 0 points. Just start with nothing. If you think you need something desperately, then go and buy it then. Buy it carefully and with a lot of thought. I've been a witch for donkey's years now, and I only just got a wand because my son carved me one when I asked him to. It's full of thought and intention, and I bloody love it. I didn't need it before. I do now. I also advise against buying those instant witch starter kits off of Amazon or Etsy or wherever, which give you like super tiny amounts of whatever herbs the creator happens to have on hand, because not every spell uses herbs. In fact, a lot of magical practice doesn't use herbs of any kind whatsoever. So why have tiny little bottles of things that you aren't going to use? By the time you know what to do with them, you know, they're all probably going to smell like the back of your sofa cushions anyway. What's the point? Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, quickly revisiting the last video, the Michelle Stonhill one, I should also note that in her witchy room tour, the one where it was literally an empty room with a pile of on the floor and some crystals she didn't understand, she shows a Tasika Witchcraft mystery box and says that it's something that a channel member sent her. I looked it up. Oh God, it's terrible. Don't ever send one of these to anyone starting out in witchcraft. It's completely bloody pointless. It doesn't surprise me at all that she says that she might send these out to people as a gift. It's just utterly pointless and a waste of money. Don't send them to anyone. It's just a whole load of little packets and bottles of herbs. 3 types of witch's salt, white, pink and black. White witch's salt, it's just salt. You know, it's in your salt cellar, you put it on your chips. Pink salt, I've had this discussion before. Pink salt, almost always Himalayan salt. And black salt is just normal salt with charcoal in it. You don't need to pay money for it. The herbs are completely pointless, most of them. I mean, I've been doing this for years and I've never used half of those herbs that they're putting in there. I mean, I have used them in my cooking. Yeah, but you know, Anyway, I mean, if you want to send a witch-centric herbal gift to somebody, try a gift certificate for like Sons of Asgard or Star Child and let them pick what works for them, right? Anyway, but my biggest advice for anyone starting out is to educate yourself and question every source you find. I love to read, and I also love the fact that a book has to be edited before it's released, so there's a certain amount of reliability already built into that format. But, you know, still question it. Something I personally struggle with, and always have done and probably always will, is understanding that I don't have to accept everything that a particular author says. I'm allowed to pick up the threads that work for me and drop the others. Be really, oh man, I've said it before, I'll say it again, be really, really careful about Facebook groups. There are no guarantees of knowledge from somebody who runs a Facebook group. Anyone with access to Canva can make an infographic telling you that you can ensure your future prosperity by rubbing tomato paste on your living room walls and supergluing pennies to the inside of your toilet. Just because they have Canva, it doesn't mean that they know squat about witchcraft. I have seen some humdingers during my time on Facebook. I've had to leave a few groups because I just yell incoherently at the screen in a tiny angry witch styley, which can distress the neighbours who probably think I'm being murdered. Although, to be fair, I also play the English concertina really badly, so they're probably quite relieved to imagine that I'm being murdered. One of these days, I'll crack out the bagpipes and the police will be called, I imagine. I'll do it when they're all smoking a lot of weed. Yeah, that'll freak them out. Anyway, sorry, digression again. I am the digression queen, I do apologise. But feel free to cherry pick what works for you and try it out for a bit. Everybody likes different things, and what works for one person will be completely useless to the next. Not everybody needs 20 sets of tarot cards, but, you know, I'm doing me. I may have also just accidentally, well, it wasn't accidentally at all. I may have backed the Ukrainian Night Tarot deck on Kickstarter. It was my birthday money. Sorry. Not sorry. I think I just have to accept this is my future now. I think Mr. Grumpy Old Crone has accepted it. Mind you, he's saving for a new sword, so we're kind of like equal opportunity spousal encouragers in this house. But my absolute biggest bit of advice for all beginner witches and magical practitioners of all sorts is that you are absolutely allowed to change your mind. How you practice at 15 and how you practice at 50 are going to be very, very different, and that is exactly how it's meant to work. You can change your mind after 50 years or 50 minutes. You don't owe anyone an explanation about why you were changing. Eventually, you'll settle on something that works well and feels comfortable for you, and you'll be able to sit with it for a while. But even then, if you need to change, then feel free to change. Change is literally the only constant in our lives. Well, that and taxes. Embrace it. Accept that it's going to happen, and when it does, it will strengthen who you are and how you practice. Right, I need to stop waffling on this subject, but I'm almost certainly going to revisit this topic at some point, as I've still got loads to say, and I want to lay out a map for how people can start figuring out what magical practice works for them when they start. And I haven't got anywhere near that yet, but otherwise we're going to be here all week. So I want to leave a bit of space at the end of this for a much requested positive bit, which is the Grumpy Old Garden in early summer. So I took my camera out and I have recorded a positive bit. Here comes the positive bit. So a few people have asked me how the Grumpy Old Garden is getting on after I did my my vlog about planting up seeds and what have you. So this is actually a really good time to address that. So here we go. First of all, chicken hut. I would like to point out they are not agoraphobic. They are very broody. They want babies. They want babies. I gave them fertile eggs and then they kicked them all out. So that's not going to go well for them, is it? Hey ho, chickens are daft. No news there. So I planted some parsley up here in the hopes to save it from getting munched by various birds and what have you, because I like parsley. So I've still got my ivy at my teapot here, which is going quite nicely, but everything else is kind of quite laid back now. So I do need to get round to making an altar up here. It's a peony, maybe it's not. Well, I knew it was a peony, but I didn't know if it was still alive. It is! Hurrah! My peony is alive. I'm very happy about that. My hydrangeas, as you can tell, are starting to bud up. I should have some little pink flowers coming here soon, which makes me kind of happy. Makes me kind of happy is going to be like the theme of the day, I promise you. Apple tree, that's the apple tree that the apples don't often set. As you can see, they've got like little baby apples here. Dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 da. Yep. Da, 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 da. But they don't always set, and in June they tend to drop if they haven't been properly fertilised by the triploid pollinators. I don't know. We'll see. You never know. And over here is my bay tree. Very useful, and that's grown quite a lot. If you can see like all the lighter green leaves on that, that's all new growth this year, so it's very, very happy. I've been feeding it on chicken poo, and I think it likes that quite a lot. We've got a buddleia in here for butterflies, so that should hopefully come out and make the butterflies happy. If not this year, then next year. It's grown quite well, but we have had quite a lot of black fly on it. And my fatsia japonica also growing remarkably well. Down here is, you'll see here and over here, these are both my bleeding heart, my dicenteras. And unfortunately, they're super popular with the chickens. The chickens just want to eat them, which is why they have like little plastic cloches on them. But you know, I could take them off, but I can guarantee the minute I take those plastic cloches off, the chickens are going to stop being broody, come out and eat them again. It's like the third time. They keep reblooming, but there's a limit, I feel. So my rhubarb, we've already had a really nice rhubarb crumble off of that when Mr. Grumpy Old Crone's family came to visit. That was lovely. And here is the raised bed that you probably saw me and my son putting in, and it's got things growing in it now. So I've got a pumpkin here. There's going to be some cucumbers. I literally just planted those today straight out. Volunteer potato, honestly, it's what happens when you make your own compost and do a mostly no dig kind of thing. You end up with volunteer bits and bobs. Doesn't matter, it can stay there. I'm happy with it. Now all those little tomatoes that I planted up that I thought weren't going to do anything, they're all in. Look at them. There we go, and there we go. I've got 5 of these planted and ready to go. And I've put some radishes in the front here as well, because those are usually a pretty quick crop. I've got some, what have I got? Chard here, interplanted with some climbing beans. So that's all going to be good. Over here, my Lazarus marigolds are still going. I don't understand it. They're brilliant. And I've got a cherry tree, which this year has been so badly affected by black fly. Look at that. Look at that. That's not good, is it? But you know what? Black fly need to live too. So circular life and all that jazz. I'm not worrying. I'm certainly not going to spray it. I'm not a big fan of spraying things. And here I've got like a little baby hazel tree and some homegrown mugwort as well. This is a plum tree here. Once again, I've never had any plums off of this, no matter where it's been, but I live in hope. You never know. Roses, not too bad. And snapdragons, kind of love them. But this is the bit I want to show you, because this is the thing that I really love most about my garden. It's this. See the elder tree over here? And this is my rose, which is a Gertrude Jekyll rose from David Austin. And I just think that's the most glorious thing, and I adore it at this time of year. And I've repurposed things a little bit this year. I've got this is an oak tree from Sherwood Forest. I didn't climb over the fence and get an acorn from the major oak, but it may well have been fertilised by the major oak. You never know. A lavender. I've got a whole load of these little hanging pots with geraniums in them, because I love geraniums. Another hazel, because I don't think you can have too many hazels. This is a honeysuckle which hasn't done too well up until now, but might just be kind of taking off. I don't know. And the thing that I'm really happy about most this year is this wisteria. You can see here. And finally, for the first time, well, I say finally, for the first time, I have got a few little tiny flowers on it. So I'm quite excited about that. That's going to be amazing. Now here, this is ragwort, which is generally seen as a weed, but I quite like it in some spell work, so I'm keeping one just there because I'm going to use it. There's another oak tree there, but there's quite a lot of weeds around it because I had it protected from the chickens, so the weeds are gone too. Now I've converted this little section of the garden into a herb garden this year because I think that's going to be the best use of it. So I've got down here, got lemon balm, which always goes like bananas. I've got another pumpkin there because, you know, can't have too many pumpkins. Then I've got marjoram, I've got thyme, I've just planted out a sage, I've got another homegrown mugwort there, I've got some chives in the back over there, and then I've got a little holly tree that I saved from when next door built this massive extension. There was the most glorious, gorgeous, lovely holly tree there, and they just rooted it out, and it made me so sad, but I managed to save a little bit of it and it's there, so go me. Now I've got, as you can tell, a little bit of chicken wire here because otherwise, once the chickens stop being broody, they are just going to eat everything. So I'm going to go into the shade slightly so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. So there we go, that's the view down there. Now I've got a huge load of lavender here because I use quite a lot of lavender. I've got a rosemary at the end because you can never have too much rosemary. And in here is the vegetable bed. So over here we've got courgettes planted from seed. Over here more chard, because chard's super good. And I've just put in down here, you can't see it because it hasn't sprouted yet, just put in some beetroot there as well. Got some leftover bits and bobs here, which I'm going to be passing on to my daughter for her garden. So there's that. The thing I can't tell you is just how glorious this smells. The combination of the Gertrude Jekyll roses and the elderflower is just heavenly, absolutely heavenly. And give me another couple of weeks and this, which is jasmine, will come out as well. I don't know if I'll still have the roses by then, but jasmine, roses and elderflower will make this smell like heaven on earth. More courgettes, don't tell my kids, they hate them. More hazel. Here we have my happy little tongue sticky outy goblin, who has been joined by, thanks to my son and nearly daughter-in-law, this grumpy little chap who I just think is perfect. I love him to bits. And around here we have, I thought this cherry tree was dead, but apparently not. I've got a few little leaves up here, which makes me kind of happy. That's a good thing. And as always, my grapevine has gone potty, absolutely potty. I'm going to get tons and tons of grapes off of this again this year, so very happy with that. And down here we've got tons and tons of raspberries. They're going to threaten, I'm going to have to tie these back because otherwise they're just going to encompass the entire garden. But as you can see, these are all starting to set fruit now, so I'm going to have strawberries, raspberries, grapes, and then all of my herbs, and just a happy place to sit. And when I sit down on my chair, oh, that's going to give you seasickness, I do apologise. You see, I'm sitting down here and it is just the perfect little spot. I'm right in the middle of the city, as you might be able to tell. You could probably hear my neighbours doing some DIY earlier, but it is a pretty gorgeous spot to be in. So that's my garden in May. Thanks for coming along, and I hope to see everybody next week. Bye!